As 26,000 small boat migrants arrive in the UK so far this year. Britain is bracing itself for a fresh wave of anti-migrant protests across the country following clashes yesterday evening across 12 cities. The unrest comes amid growing anger, some would say rage, over the government's use of hotels for migrants. Joining me now is GB News reporters Jack Carlson and Sophie Reaper. Sophie, let's come to you first. You are in Liverpool, where it does sound like things have been getting pretty scary. Bring us up to date on what's happening.
Well done. Since we last spoke in the last hour, things have certainly evolved here in Liverpool. There are a few hundred people across both sides, and Merseyside police have now taken out their riot helmets. So clearly there's been an escalation in tension here in Liverpool. Both sides very, very vocal. One side saying, you can hear it perhaps, refugees are welcome here, Nazi scum off our streets. The other side chanting, get them out, get them out. So tension very high here, but at GB News, as I said last night, we want to give everyone the opportunity to put forth their side. So we're going to now, Dawn, try and speak to people on both sides. So we'll head this way first. On this particular side where you can see all these Union Jacks, this is the anti-migration side of this protest today. I'm just wondering if there's anyone we could have a quick word with. Ladies, do you mind if I ask why you're here today?
Just to protect our children. We're sick of it. It's a frightening situation at the moment, and we want our country back. We want to know who's coming in, and we don't want people that are legally here. And we've come to make a stance, really, that's all.
What about yourself? You look quite young, if you don't mind me saying.
I'm a university student, and it's not safe anymore. There's illegal housing right next to the university, so I don't feel like it's safe to go to university, especially at night.
And that's what made you want to come out today. Ladies, thank you so much.
Concerned citizens, that's all we are, you know.
I'm sure that that's something that's shared, but I can see a lot of people having a look. I'm sure you would all agree you're all concerned citizens, wouldn't you guys? A lot of nodding heads. Oh, you are concerned citizens, absolutely.
We only watch GB News.
Yeah.
We want our kids growing up into a safe environment. That's all we want.
Say that again.
We just want our kids growing up into a safe environment, because you can see it all over what's happening. It's just not nice.
Thank you very much. Right, we're going to try and go and speak to the other side now, but that is something we're hearing time and time again, Dawn. On both sides, in fact, it's something that we heard a lot yesterday. Both sides saying they want to try and protect their children, both sides thinking that they're doing what is best for their children. Now, we are going to go and try and speak to the counter-protest, which is led here by Stand Up to Racism. Of course, we did have some trouble yesterday, but I'm going to try and speak to a few of them from the other side of the police line. Gents, I'm just wondering if you wouldn't mind me asking why you're here today.
Solidarity forever. No, why are you asking that? You can see they're telling you. All right, because I think we should have refugees here.
Tell me why.
Because we are Britain. We've taken refugees in all our existence, and I think that's a good thing. And I don't like the look of that lot either. That's another thing.
Sir, I really appreciate you speaking to us today. Thank you very much. There we are, and that is what today is all about for us. We want to give people the opportunity to give us their side of the story. Of course, yesterday we weren't as lucky in Altrincham, but that gentleman happy to speak to us here on GB News, and the people on the other side both giving their stance here in Liverpool today. Tensions are high, but hopefully the police here in the centre, despite getting their riot gear out, despite all of the tension here, hopefully they can keep things from bubbling over too much.
Just very quickly, did he just say, I don't like the look of that lot, referring to people who are holding the national flag?
I think that is what he said, Dawn. It's very loud here, so I couldn't hear everything he said, but I think it was something along those lines, yes.
Astonishing. Sophie, thank you very much. That's Sophie Reaper in Liverpool at a migrant hotel protest. We will go back to Sophie as and when.
Do you want to save a boatload of cash this summer, wherever you have a trip planned? The one thing you're going to need is access to the internet and on the go. And you can do that easily with Saily. Hit the link in the description to get 15% off your first eSIM plan ready for your trip, so you can browse to your heart's content. Saily gets you a local SIM card you can use when traveling, so you don't have to pay those crazy roaming fees just to send a message or check the latest news. Now, they've got plans in over 160 countries, 8 regions, so pretty much everywhere, wherever you're going, they'll be able to make sure you're connected. So how does it work? All you've got to do is this. Hit the link in the description to download the app. It will work on iOS or Android. Buy a plan. You can choose an amount of data and time frame that suits you best. And then just install the eSIM on your phone. When you land at your holiday destination, you can activate your plan instantly. And if that wasn't enough, Saily eSIMs only ever have to be installed once. So when you go on your next trip, you just buy a plan for a new country, turn that eSIM back on, and boom, you're back watching me on GB News. I'll be using a Saily SIM on my next holiday because it's actually faster than some of the hotel Wi-Fis. You can get unlimited data if you want, so you can scroll away to your heart's content. And when you leave the hotel, you don't have to do that annoying thing of Wi-Fi hopping because you've got constant connectivity wherever you go. And they've got 24/7 support as well and a full refund policy if your eSIM isn't compatible. So get sorted for your next trip. Download Saily using the link in the description below. And if you use the code NEWS at checkout, you'll get an exclusive 15% discount on us. So click the link, download Saily, and use the code NEWS at checkout.
Meanwhile, we are crossing now to Jack Carson in Solihull. Jack, it does sound a bit quieter where you are.
It is certainly a very different atmosphere. There's still at times been some tension between both sides, but you can probably see as we look around a much smaller policing presence here. We've got, of course, this side stand up to racism with their sign saying stop the far right. Plenty of beeping here for the supporters on this side of the road who, of course, are against the use of these migrant hotels. Mark, who's a local resident, joins us now. Mark, just tell us why you've wanted to come out and protest today.
Well, this is our community and people come to the park here and we're just losing our identity. We've got children here. We just can't do the things that we want to do because it just feels unsafe. You know, I've got a grandson. We've got vets here. We've got grandparents here. We've got mothers and fathers that are worried for the communities, and we just want something sorted, and they're just not doing. It just seems like nobody's doing anything.
So the government would say that they are trying to phase out the use of these migrant hotels. They've signed a one-in, one-out deal with France. Is that not going to make a difference for you? Is that not going to make you feel safer, what the government are saying they are doing?
It's a smokescreen. What we've got to do, we've got to stop the boats coming in, because when they come here, they have to be processed, and it can be for months, it could be for years. They say they're doing it a quick turnover. No such thing as a quick turnover with Starmer. It's just they stay, they get the benefits, they get their phones, you know, and we're paying for this. And if you've said enough, communities are losing their identity.
So what would make it easier? What would make it better? What would make you feel safe? You're saying you feel unsafe. What would make you feel safe?
They should not be put in a hotel. We're the only country probably in the world, or if not in Europe, that house them in hotels. They come here, it's a luxury for them. We house them, we benefit them, we give them phones. We've got people on the street, we've got people who are poor because of this government. And, you know, we just want our people to be put first. And they're not being put first. And they keep labelling us as far right. We're not far right. Far from it. We're parents, we're grandparents. We just want our children protected, for their children as well to be protected and feel safe in their own country. And they're not safe.
Right, Mark, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a perspective from this side of the road. Of course, I was saying, you know, we've got stand up to racism on this side of the road as well. Some of the signs you might be able to see. Look, Jesus was a refugee. Refugees welcome here, as they're saying, stop the far right. Now, on that side of the road is a gentleman called Solomon. He's been here as part of the counter protest. Take a listen to what he told us when we spoke to him earlier on.
Right, I mean, these hotels, nobody was using them. They were hemorrhaging financially, and I'm not happy that these hotels are being used. Neither are the asylum seekers. They want the right to work. You know, I've been part of different campaigns where we're saying, look, you know, if somebody's claiming asylum, give them the right to work. They want agency in their life. They want to pay back to this community who's given them sanctuary. Who wouldn't?
So Solomon, who spoke to us a little bit earlier on, as you can hear, there's strong opinions on both sides. As I was saying, there was some tension earlier on. It's very much calmed down. There's a lot less of a police presence here than the likes of Sophie seeing in Liverpool. And much of it, both sides just having their voices and having their opinions heard here in Solihull.
Very much. That's Jack Carson in Solihull and Sophie Reaper in Liverpool reporting from migrant hotel protests. We will be joining them both throughout the show and throughout the rest of the day here on GB News if there are any developments. So we will bring you up to date on that one, so you don't want to go too far. Certainly in Sophie's case with the Liverpool situation. OK, now joining me now is political commentator Benedict Spence to digest a little bit of what we have just heard. Benedict, good to see you. Always good to see you, Benedict. What did you make of what you just heard, both from Solihull and from Liverpool there?
I mean, I think for a start, you've got to say that there's been a significant change in the nature of these sort of anti-migrant protests, in that actually the critical mass of people are just concerned individuals. You can't really pull the argument about, far-right infiltration or any nonsense like that. And, the presence of flags doesn't really mean very much, if we're being completely honest. Not especially when the other side is very organised and all turns up with Socialist Workers' Party banners. And I think that is beginning to be the sense that on the one hand, you have sort of almost professional agitators, people turning up because they've got an ideological position that they want to push. And the other side, it is literally people who are just concerned about the way that their society is changing, about the safety of their children and stuff like that. And, people saying things like, oh, I don't like the look of them over there. That's not really going to wash.
What did you make of that comment? I found that quite offensive. I mean, he was referring to people holding the national flag of the United Kingdom.
But it's very classic of a certain type of, as I would say, sort of semi-professional agitator and political activist who, their raison d'etre is to sort of vilify the majority of people who do not necessarily agree with them. But most people watching that will sort of raise an eyebrow and go, sorry, what exactly is the problem here? And, I think it's I tell you what, it doesn't win over many people to your side if you start demonizing ordinary people. I mean, politicians have worked this out. That if you keep on demonizing the working class or just concerned citizens, actually the majority of people sit there and go, well, that could be me at any given stage, and you're being very rude. But I think the nature of these sort of protests has changed. They are spontaneous in nature. They are organic in nature. Once upon a time, the commentariat of this country would have, as I sort of just alluded to there, they'd have gone, it's far right, it's organised, it's people trying to be difficult, and then they would have also come out with the whole, maybe it's being fomented online, maybe it's Russian bots, it's disinformation, it's all of these little sort of buzzwords. You can't say that anymore because these are people reacting to news stories they see in the mainstream and behaviours they see on their streets every day. There's only so much that people will put up with.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, and calling them Nazi scum, it's just really offensive. These are ordinary, as we've listened to, ordinary mums and dads and grandparents who are, rightly or wrongly, you could argue, worried about migrants being housed in hotels near them and their children and grandchildren's schools. That doesn't make them Nazi scum.
Well, the thing is, it's not kidding anybody anymore. As you say, you can't look at an array of people of all ages, all backgrounds, who are there for one reason only, because of safety, and go, well, they're goose-stepping fascists. Because nobody's going to buy that anymore. When it was, if it was, I don't know, the EDL or a bunch of skinheads or, something like that, well, then you could far more easily make that case. But there is very little in the way of these protests that is easy to demonize. And I think it shows a tiredness in the playbook of these sort of very far-left agitators. All they've got are these sort of very outdated slogans. And it must be said, for years, people said, if you keep on calling everything that you don't like Nazism, if you bring Hitler and the fascists into absolutely everything, sooner or later it's not really going to have any impact. And that's the stage where we're at, where you've got the majority of people, just ordinary people, feeling very strongly about this thing, and all these people have on the other side is just shouting fascist into the wind. Nobody cares.
Benedict, what do you say to the accusation that some are making that there are some people in this country who want to see more riots, like we saw in Southport last year, who want to see more riots happening this summer? What would you say to them?
I don't think anybody wants to see violence. I don't think anybody wants to see that sort of behaviour. I think only sort of very hardline, organised, you'd have to say sort of borderline terrorist groups, if that is the sort of thing that they're agitating for, would be wanting that sort of thing. Very, very far from the mainstream. We hear a lot, increasingly, about how civil war could break out in this country over the course of the next 10 years, about how the government is very worried about the possibility of civil unrest. But I think it really needs to be hammered home. English people, and these are very, it must be said, in this context, we're talking about English people, not the UK in general. We're not talking about Northern Ireland or anything like that. There are separate arguments to be made there. But in particular, I think there is a certain segment of England that all it really wants is just to be able to live its life in accordance with the law and be left alone. And they'll put up with an awful lot of state overbearance if it means that they are effectively left alone. But you get to a point and you will push people over the edge. And what I think you're seeing now is not people looking for a fight, at the very least not from the anti-migrant hotel people. Those people are not spoiling for a fight. They want this nipped in the bud before we get to a stage where you could have militias running around the country based on ethnic or political lines. They don't want that to happen. That's why they are finally fed up enough to start talking about these things now.
Benedict, lots of people are asking, why are we not hearing from the government today? We've covered the fact that we've seen more migrant crossings happening this morning. We're now at yet another record high, despite the one in, one out deal that doesn't seem to be working. But the government are very, very quiet when we have seen, and we are seeing, an increasing number of protests at hotels around the country. Why are we not getting any response from our leaders?
Because they'd rather that this all just went away. I think one of the great tragedies about the politics of this country is that the politicians are several years behind the public, actually. I think they still haven't quite grasped the strength of feeling, and I think that there is a sense that if they just hold on for long enough, people will simmer down and things will go back to how they used to be, and they'll be able to parrot the whole diversity is our strength, refugees are welcome here, and that nothing bad can possibly happen. That's what they're hoping for. They don't quite understand the severity with which the Overton window has shifted. We're not at a stage now where people are going, I don't like the small boats. They're now at a stage where they're going, there are many more people in this country than there should be here for the wrong reasons, and they need to go back. But we're still at the stage where the politicians, Keir Starmer, is sat there going, well, maybe we could have a one in, one out situation where it's just about a few illegal migrants, and maybe that'll deter enough people. That they are so behind the curve on this, and as I say, they're not talking about it because they think if we mention it, that'll give fuel to that'll put fuel on the fire. They think if they ignore it long enough, it'll just go away.
Are they really that stupid, Benedict?
Yeah, of course they are. I mean, think about who you're talking about. I mean, this is a government that came in a couple of months ago and said there's a £20 billion black hole, but don't worry, we've got a plan to fix it, and is now coming back 6 months later going, that black hole is now 50 billion. Yes, these people are that stupid.
Okay, Benedict Spence, always a delight to talk to you. Common sense, lots of people saying very strong opinions, but that is what we're about. That's political commentator Benedict Spence there.